Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We are jumping right into a classic Aesop's fable to practice our E3 reading skills together. Today, we're exploring the famous story of the donkey and the salt. By the time we wrap this up, we're going to pick up some fantastic new vocabulary and uncover a really timeless moral lesson. So let's get right into it. Okay, part 1. The donkey and salt. I want you to imagine being a beast of burden under a scorching hot sun. Our story begins like this. A merchant used to drive his donkey laden with heavy sacks of salt. You know, as English learners, you really have to appreciate a phrase like laden with. It so perfectly paints this vivid picture of the poor donkey just being heavily loaded down by this merchant. So, their route lay straight across a river. Crossing a shallow river, the donkey lost his footing and tumbled into the water. Oops! You can just imagine this giant comical splash. The donkey totally lost his balance and took a completely unexpected, splashing tumble right into the river. But here's the thing. This accident actually turned into a really happy surprise. He scrambled to his feet, struggling awkwardly to stand back up, and realized the salt had largely dissolved into the water. Because of this, his burden suddenly felt wonderfully light. Naturally, the donkey took note of it. He paid very close attention to how falling in the river magically solved his heavy problem. Moving on to part 2, the sponge's bitter lesson. So, the very next day, carrying sponges, the donkey deliberately let himself fall into the water. Now, I really want you to emphasize that word in your mind, deliberately. This wasn't some clumsy accident like the day before, no way. He did it completely on purpose with this sneaky, calculated intention of recreating his previous success. He totally thought he was outsmarting the merchant. Well, physics had a slightly different plan. The sponges greedily soaked up the water. They didn't dissolve at all, they absorbed it. The sacks grew heavier and heavier until the poor beast could scarcely rise. It got so bad he could barely even get back on his feet. And this brilliantly illustrates his two drastically different trips across that river. Think about the salt day. An accidental fall leads to dissolved salt and this wonderfully light feeling. But then, on the sponge day, a deliberate fall causes the sponges to soak up all that water, making the load incredibly heavy. Talk about a complete backfire. Part 3. Vocab and Golden Sentence. Let's take a moment to really lock in some of this great E3 vocabulary from the story together. Focus on the pronunciation while matching it to the Chinese translations. First, we have merchant, the businessman. Laden with, which means to be heavily loaded. Shallow river, a river that just isn't very deep. Scramble to one's feet, which perfectly describes that desperate, clumsy struggle to stand up. And finally, dissolve, to melt away into liquid. Okay, here are a few more challenging words, and I'd love for you to practice saying these out loud right now. Deliberately, doing something entirely on purpose. Soak up, to absorb a liquid. Greedily, doing something with intense hunger or desire. Scarcely, meaning hardly or barely at all. And circumstance, a specific situation or condition. So the absolutely crucial point here is captured in our golden sentence. A trick that succeeds once will not succeed in every circumstance. This right here carries the heavy moral weight of the whole fable. Just because a shortcut works for you one time definitely doesn't mean it's going to work in every single situation. You always have to adapt to the circumstances. Finally, part 4, a role-play Q&A challenge. Let's actually put our English into practice by stepping directly into the story. First up, let's play the role of the merchant. If I'm the merchant, I'm asking you, Why did my load suddenly get lighter in the shallow river on the first day? I'll give you a quick second to formulate your answer in English. All right, the answer is because the donkey tumbled into the water and the salt largely dissolved. Did you get it? If you use the word dissolved in your answer, you absolutely nailed it. Okay, let's switch gears for a second and play the arrogant donkey. What was my deliberate plan with the sponges on the second day? See if you can recall our target vocabulary word, deliberately, in your answer for this one. In the answer, you deliberately let yourself fall into the water expecting the load to lighten once more. But of course, as we now know, that plan completely blew up in his face. All right, for our last challenge, let's reflect on the big picture as a wise observer. What is the ultimate lesson or our golden sentence of this entire story? Try really hard to recall it from memory right now. Here it is. A trick that succeeds once will not succeed in every circumstance. Spot on. Because relying on your old tricks in completely new situations, well, that is just a guaranteed recipe for disaster. To put this all into perspective, think about the donkey's mood. On the salt day, his happiness level was soaring at a solid 90%. But on the sponge day, it plummeted to a miserable 10%. His entire mood flipped upside down, simply based on the physical properties of what he was carrying. You were that donkey. What on earth would you choose to carry on the third day to finally outsmart the merchant? Think about it. Thank you so much for practicing your English reading skills with me today. Keep reviewing that new vocabulary, keep practicing your golden sentence, and I will see you all next time.